Captain America, the first Avenger. It's the first time we've seen Captain America on the big screen. Yeah, there was, the 90s straight-to-DVD movie that no one saw and no one needs to see, trust me. I watched that as a kid, and even as a kid I was like, this is hot garbage, I'm not watching this crap. Captain America, the first Avenger, makes an interesting choice in casting Chris Evans, considering he played the Human Torch in the Fantastic Four movies that didn't come out that long before this movie. However, I think it's a great casting. I think Chris Evans is amazing in this as this character. He's very much captures that young, scrappy kid that wants to do well, and then he fully embodies the character. I think he's a perfect casting. I think, this just continues the streak of Marvel doing really solid casting for their heroes. I don't think that there's a main hero in any Marvel movie that was miscast. I think that they've been nailing it. Maybe Thor in the first movie, but I think Chris Hemsworth grew into his role. That's off point though. Chris Evans is great in this movie. The effects that they used to make him look so young and scrappy at the beginning, where they had like a body double and CGI'd his face on it, it's really shockingly good and it holds up. I was expecting, I remembered it being good for the time, but now, it's probably been 7 years since this movie came out. I was rewatching it and I was like, wow, those effects are really damn good. They still hold up. I totally buy it. But there are some other effects in the movie as far as fire and stuff that happens later that are kind of cringy to look back on. As far as the rest of the cast in this movie, Haley Atwell is great as Agent Carter. However, I think her character is very weak in this movie. I feel like she kind of suffers from studio trying to make a strong female character, but not knowing how. And I'm glad that they gave her own series, even though it was short-lived. It only had 2 seasons of an Agent Carter TV show where they expanded on her character, and she was really good in that, and they gave her a lot more to do. But in this movie, she's like, a female that's in charge, and yeah, but she doesn't really do much in the movie besides flirt with Steve Rogers. There's one point where she's, standing in front of a car shooting at someone, and then, Steve Rogers, Captain America, just pushes her out of the way to save her life because she would have died. So, she's just kind of getting saved and, on the sidelines. So I feel like, I don't know, that's annoying to me, especially now looking back on it when we've seen, actual good, female heroes in movies. Like Wonder Woman is great. So that's something that's, a little bit dated, but I still like her performance in the movie. She's good. Now, Hugo Weaving, on the other hand, weird. Him playing Red Skull. I mean, Hugo Weaving, I like him as an actor. I think he would have worked if they went such a cartoonish way with this villain, and it's so weird. The tone doesn't mesh at all with the movie, because this movie is very much feels like, I guess kind of akin to Hacksaw Ridge, but on a lesser extent, where it's kind of, a kid going through the army and he's trying to save people, and you don't think, people underestimate him, but then all of a sudden he, turns it on its head and he ends up being a hero and saving people and stuff, and he's respected. And I feel like it's that kind of story, and it could be more of that war story that I really like in a superhero movie. I think it's an interesting tone to take, but yet you contrast that with Hugo Weaving's Red Skull, who basically talks and has the appearance and sounds like he's Skeletor from He-Man. He's like Skeletor from He-Man mixed with Cobra Commander from G.I. Joe. And he's this real cartoonish, I am a Nazi! Oh! It's so bad. It's so funny bad. But it's not funny bad in the way that you're enjoying it, because you're so invested in these characters, in this character, and you like this movie, and then I feel like him on his own is hilarious, kind of, but in this movie it doesn't work, and it's really off-putting every time you see the villain, and that is a rough, that's a rough bed to be in when, your ending and your whole, arc of the movie is relying on the villain. I mean, it's just weird. It's rough. I don't know what they were thinking. But as for the rest of the story, I think that it kind of takes some interesting directions, but can't quite commit as well. It wants to be more like I said, Hacksaw Ridge-y, kind of, and be this military story of a kid going through boot camp and stuff. The boot camp sequence in this movie is incredible, by the way. I really love the boot camp sequence of this movie. I think the movie kind of goes downhill after that a little bit. I mean, it's still a fun movie, but the boot camp sequence is so good in this movie, and I really love that scene and that sequence. Every once in a while, I'll just look up that clip on YouTube and watch it. I feel like it's so much fun and so well executed. And Tommy Lee Jones, in his small role in the movie, is great as well. But, I mean, they do that war story, but then they also kind of turn it and make it into a somewhat of a commentary, just kind of a story about a America propaganda during World War II, which is kind of interesting. I kind of like that idea for Captain America, to talk about him becoming the poster boy for America. He's basically treated like Uncle Sam in this movie at points, and you know, he's going shows, touring the country, punching a fake actor dressed as Hitler, trying to psych up people in America, and it works. And then they take him to the front lines and does it for the soldiers, and the soldiers are just like, who is this guy? He's not helping us. He's, you know, just putting on a show. Meanwhile, people are dying. And I thought that that worked really well, that moment where Captain America is like, what am I doing, you know? And he goes back and actually, you know, works with the soldiers and actually fights in the war, because that's something that he wanted to do so much. But I feel like that whole arc, while I think it has that really interesting premise, and I really like that moment of realization, it doesn't really make much sense for his character, because they established him so much as being this young kid who just wants to go to the war and wants to go make a difference. And then he, you know, the scientists, the government spent all this time and money into creating a super soldier and injecting him with the serum and making him super strong, stronger than the average man, faster, you know? And then they were like, okay, well, we made you super strong, you're a super soldier, you're the best of us all. Let's, you know, dress you in a mascot outfit and parade you around America. And he was just like, sure. And that's such a weird, like, I feel like they just kind of glazed over it. It's like, basically like, yeah, you're doing this, and then the next scene he's doing that, and he's been doing it for a while from what we gather, and it's just, it's such a weird transition there, and I feel like that's where the movie loses a lot of steam. Because it doesn't make sense for his character why he would do that in the first place. It doesn't make sense for the government why they would, you know, I mean, you could have any kind of well-built, buff guy that's in the army just be the mascot. Why are you using this super soldier who's the most valuable asset that America has as doing that? So that's where the movie loses a lot of momentum, and it kind of goes downhill a bit. I think that there are a lot of great aspects to this movie, though. It's a very fun movie. The action sequences are good. They're well directed. And the emotional pull at the end of the movie, where he is, you know, kind of sacrificing his life. I don't understand. I must have missed something. Maybe every time I've seen this movie, maybe I missed something as to why he can't just move the plane. But it's almost like the plane's on this straight path to New York and it's going to blow up, you know, New York City. So he's got to take the plane down, but he can't just like turn it, you know, circle around until they find him a runway. I guess he didn't have manual control, but he had manual control to go up and down, so he just crashes it instead. I don't know. I kind of got lost on that part, honestly. I must have missed something, and I rewound and tried to find it, and I must just be blind or a stupid idiot or something. If you saw something, leave me in the comments, because I'm an idiot if I missed it. So it's kind of a weird way, but I really like that moment where he's talking to Peggy Carter over the radio, and it's a very somber, sad moment where they're just talking about making plans for a date, and he just goes silent, and it's a really emotionally effective moment that I thought was well earned between their relationship, and I like that a lot. And then the stinger kind of right after that is him waking up in the present, and I really like that idea as far as, you know, him being kind of trapped or being put into the set to make it look like the 50s, where, you know, a nurse comes and checks on him and he's listening to the baseball game, and then he hears that baseball game and he's like, I know this baseball game, I was there, which is kind of weird to me, mostly, because they didn't say, like, the date in the baseball game, and if he was at the baseball game, he probably wasn't hearing the radio commentary, because he was watching it. Like, I've been to baseball games, and you don't hear the commentary that they would do on the radio there. Like, they have announcers, but they don't do that. They don't, like, oh, he's running through the base, or whatever, because you're seeing the game if you're there. So that's kind of weird to me. I guess he just was able to instantly recognize that, and also I'm not quite sure what their plan was, because if you see the set that he bursts out of, you can see that it's just like clearly a set. Like, if he ever got up from the bed and looked out the window, then you would be like, oh, there's just a floor down there, there's no cars or anything. So I'm not quite sure what they were doing. They're probably just hoping that this super soldier who heals super fast would, you know, be bedridden for a while. I don't know what they were thinking. But I really like that aspect, that idea. I wish that it was a little more fleshed out, that idea. But I really like that idea, and him bursting through the set is really cool. And then he runs down the hallway, you know, storming past all these guards and stuff, and he goes, and it's Times Square, New York City, modern day. I really like that idea, and I really like the, for the most part, I like the way it was executed, especially, you know, after he breaks out. And but then the stinger at the very end, right before the pitch black to credits and everything, he's just like, I had a date. Yeah, I had a date with Peggy Carter. I'm not gonna get to bone anymore. And it's so weird. He just got told he woke up from like a 70-year coma, and his first reaction is like, "Oh man, I missed my date." I'm like, I would be like really like in shock. He wouldn't. He's just like, "Oh yeah, 70-year comas. We all go through that, right?" Huh. Man, that date though. Whew. Like, it's just kind of a weird note to end on. I thought it was kind of a sweet note, but it just didn't carry. I feel like it was just too weird of a turn there, so that put me off, and that's the very end of the movie, so I was like, okay. Yeah, so it kind of left a little sour note. There's a lot of goods and bads in the movie. I think the goods outweigh the bad. I think this is a really fun movie. I think you get good performances, you get these good emotional pulls for the most part, except for the end. But this movie's a lot of fun. I really like a lot of the aspects. I don't think they were all necessarily executed well, but I really like what they were going for with this movie, aside from Red Skull. And then there's a stinger after the credits of the movie, where you see the first teaser trailer for the Avengers. And I remember, I mean, it's not much to talk about there. It's not really part of the movie. I feel like it's very, you know, on its own. It's a teaser that's just attached to the movie, so it really doesn't affect this review. But I just remember being so amped up seeing that. And also, complete side note, apart from the movie review's over as far as I'm concerned. That teaser trailer, it's so weird watching now, especially when it's part of a movie, but you see that teaser trailer, it's so dated. Like, you don't realize how much movie trailers have changed. They went from like the old like narration, you know, of like, one day, this man, or whatever. And then they became like this trailer where it's like, it's kind of a rock song put over a bunch of flashy images of explosions and all the action stuff, and it's like, so weird. And now all the trailers are depressing. Like, you see the trailer for Infinity War and everyone's just sitting around crying and there's like a bunch of like slow reactions and this super dramatic music. And I think trailers have gotten better for that as far as entertainment value. I think that they've started spoiling more by doing that, but as far as, you know, how the trailers are made, I think they've gotten way better. And, you know, this Avengers trailer, I remember being so excited for it, but now watching it, I was like, I'm not sure if I'd be excited if they released that trailer today. If they released that trailer, but just replaced it with Infinity War footage, I would just be like, okay. You got, like, what is that, like a Limp Bizkit song over, weird. Complete side note. What did you guys think of Captain America, though? Do you like the movie? Do you hate it? I know a lot of people will say that this is probably one of the lower Marvel movies. I think there's plenty worse than this, though. I enjoy this movie a lot. Again, I kind of try to stay away from the grading system lately, but I'd say, you know, solid 7. For this movie, 7 or higher probably. There's a lot of entertainment, there's a lot of good performances, a lot of good emotional pulls. Like the movie a lot. What do you guys think about the movie, though? You like it? You hate it? Where would you rank this as far as Marvel goes? A lot of people say that this is probably one of the lower ones. I'd agree. I'd say more mid-range. I think the good outweighs the bad here, but I think it is probably one of the worst films of the Marvel Universe. But what do you guys think? Let me know. I want to know, what would you rank this movie in Marvel canon, in the MCU at least? I mean, it's way towards the top if you're, you know, taking in, you know, Ghost Rider and Fantastic Four and the other Fantastic Four and the other Fantastic Four and Daredevil and Elektra and the other Fantastic Four, Rise of the Silver Surfer.